So this is the brand new Instinct 3 lineup, and Garmin went all in this time with 3 different levels of Instinct: an Instinct E, an Instinct 3 Solar, and an Instinct 3 AMOLED. That's right, they put an AMOLED display into an Instinct body, which I don't think any of us saw coming. So Garmin's Instinct lineup has kind of been a breakout success since they first came out, and since then, I've seen them on tons of people's wrists. They have that distinct retro look to them, they're durable, they get great battery life, and they're also super comfortable. So I'm not really surprised that Garmin's expanding their Instinct lineup based on their popularity, and this may seem like a lot of models here, but don't worry, you can pretty much think of these as 3 different levels with some size and color options. Oh, and really quick, so this video is going to be going over everything new with the new Instinct 3s, but make sure to subscribe to the channel for my full in-depth reviews of these watches, which will be dropping in a couple of weeks. Okay, so first up, let's talk about the new Instinct E, and the E stands for Essential, and you can basically think of this as the original Instinct with some upgrades. Like, first off, it comes with 2 different sizes. There's also an improved display. There's some new internals like the processor and stuff like that, and there's also some new software features. So when it comes to the 2 different sizes, so these are going to come in a 40mm version and a larger 45mm version, and both of them run $299. But just like the original, these have that distinct Instinct look to them with their wraparound strap design, as well as that unique display that has a cutout window for different pieces of data. Something new though with the Instinct E is that these are supposed to have an upgraded display that's supposed to have more contrast to the Instinct 2. Now, the previous generation Instincts already had quite a bit of contrast and were quite readable in outdoor conditions, so this should just be an improvement. But another upgrade with the Instinct E is that it's also supposed to be faster than the Instinct 2 with upgraded internals like the processor and stuff like that. So it should be faster to get around the menus, but also should be able to update it with new features for a longer term. Now, the Instinct E comes with an all-systems GNSS chipset, so this will support different satellite systems like GPS and Galileo and stuff like that, but this is a single-band chipset and not a multi-band chipset like you'll get on the Instinct 3 Solar, as well as the Instinct 3 AMOLED, which we'll get to in just one bit. Now, for the new software features of the Instinct E versus the original Instinct, so this will come with all the same stuff as before, like all the sport profiles, 24/7 heart rate monitoring, steps, all that good stuff. But for some of the new features that it comes with, so some big notable ones are going to be HRV status. There's also going to be VO2 max, which I thought was kind of a big missing feature from the original Instinct. But there's also going to be more training tools like training effect. There's also going to be running dynamics on the wrist itself. There's going to be even more sport profiles. There's Garmin Share, more advanced sleep tracking, women's health tracking, morning report, and everything else you see right here. Now, if you want solar charging, a built-in flashlight, as well as even more features, so that's where we're going to get into the Instinct 3 Solar, as well as the Instinct 3 AMOLED. So with the Instinct 3 Solar, so these come in 2 different sizes. So this comes in a 45mm version as well as a 50mm version. And the 45mm versions are going to start at $399, and the 50mm versions are going to start at $449. And then for colors, so they're going to have 2 different kind of editions, I guess you could say, where they're going to have these standard editions, which are basically going to be black with some colored accents, but they're also going to have these new limited edition Tropical Pulse colorways. So these will be kind of like fun little colorways if you want to mix things up a little bit. And the Instinct 3 Solar still have that familiar distinct design as before, where they have a monochrome memory and pixel display with that cutout window. But just like the Instinct D, these also have more contrast than previous generations. Now, when it comes to the solar charging, so this is improved as well, where these are going to be more efficient with a larger solar panel. And one example they gave is with the 50mm model, where this is supposed to be able to get up to 5 times the battery life in the standard GPS configuration. And then definitely pretty impressive battery life numbers across the board. And just like the previous generation Instinct 2, there is potential for unlimited battery life in some configurations as well with enough solar exposure. And then don't worry, folks, so just like the Instinct 2, this also does come with a built-in LED flashlight where it has 4 different levels to it, and it also does have a red mode right there. The built-in LED flashlights that Garmin's had on their higher-end watches is one of those features that you really have to use to appreciate, and I literally use the flashlight like every day, so it's pretty awesome to see these in here as well. Now, on the software side of things, so this is going to be a full-on multi-sport outdoor watch with all the sport profiles that you can think of, including triathlon as well as open water swimming, along with all the typical stuff like running, cycling, gym profiles, outdoor recreation profiles like skiing, as well as even team sports. There's a huge list here. And then for training feedback, so this also comes with quite a bit, where you get training load, there's training load focus, training status, as well as HRV status, and yes, it definitely comes with training readiness, which I find to be an extremely useful tool to gauge whether or not I'm ready for training. And then on the GPS side of things, so all Instinct 3 Solars come with a multi-band satellite chipset. So this can not only access different satellite systems like GPS and Galileo, but also 2 different frequencies within those satellite systems. So with this kind of technology, the aim is to get better accuracy in challenging environments like downtown environments like really tall buildings, tall canyon walls, as well as a lot of heavy tree cover. Now, the Instinct 3 Solar doesn't have maps like its bigger brother, the Phoenix, but something kind of interesting is that it does have city names on the map page during an outdoor activity. So this is kind of fascinating and kind of like an in-between approach of not full-blown maps, but you do get some kind of like broader context of city names. Like if you're kind of like lost out in the wilderness, you can maybe see that the city's like over here or something like that. Oh, and then one last thing is that all solar models also come with contactless payments with Garmin Pay. Now for the Instinct 3 AMOLED, so these are going to come in 2 different sizes, just like the Instinct 3 Solar. So this is going to have a 45mm version, which starts at $449, and a 50mm version, which starts at $499. And just like the Instinct 3 Solars, these also come with a standard as well as a tropical pulse colorways. Now, feature-wise, the Instinct 3 AMOLED is going to be nearly identical to the Instinct 3 Solar, but the big difference, of course, is the AMOLED display, where the 45mm version has a 1.2-inch display with 390 by 390 pixels, and the 50mm version has a 1.3-inch display with 416 by 416 pixels. Now, what's super interesting about this display, though, is that it doesn't have a physical cutout window like the Solar version, but instead, they mirrored the design with a digital cutout window to keep with that Instinct theme. And the rest of the user interface is going to be different as well from the Instinct 3 Solar, since it has more screen real estate and more pixels. But this should be pretty familiar to other Garmin watches with AMOLED displays, but it doesn't have the new updated user interface that came on the Enduro 3 as well as the Phoenix 8. Now, these are definitely the same big bright displays that you see in other Garmin AMOLED watches, but one thing to note is that these aren't touchscreen displays, so these are going to have a 5-button configuration, but these don't have touch like a lot of their other models. But for the rest of the software features of the Instinct 3 AMOLED, it's going to be nearly identical to the Instinct 3 Solar, with some small exceptions like you'll be able to see muscle maps for like some gym workouts, since it has a little bit more screen real estate and more pixels to work with. But now let's get into battery life, which is going to be kind of interesting since this does have a brighter display, but it's also more power hungry. So the 45mm version is supposed to get up to 18 days in smartwatch mode if you're not using the always-on display, and then up to 7 days if you are using the always-on display. And then for outdoor battery life, up to 23 hours in their most accurate multi-band mode, and then plenty more if you choose a lower accuracy mode. And then for the 50mm model, so that bumps things up a bit, so that's supposed to get up to 24 days in smartwatch mode without the always-on display, and then up to 9 days with the always-on display. And then for outdoor battery life, around 30 hours in their most accurate multi-band mode, and then again plenty more if you use a lower accuracy mode. Now, it's definitely not the potentially unlimited battery life that you can get at the Instinct 3 Solar, but it's still pretty respectable. But it's basically just kind of the trade-off that you have to have with these big bright displays. Now, we also do have to talk about what the Instinct 3s don't have, though, and this comes with their 4th generation elevated heart rate sensor. It doesn't come with their more accurate 5th generation sensor. This is still a pretty decent sensor, but their 5th generation sensor is more accurate. But one thing that you do get with their 5th generation sensor is ECG, so that's a feature that you're not going to have on the Instinct 3s. But I do think it's kind of nice that they're giving us 3 different levels of Instinct to choose from depending on our needs, but it's obviously super interesting that they crammed an AMOLED display into an Instinct body. So they're kind of like blending 2 different worlds here of that retro design with those big bright displays that we're used to. Anyhow, that's the new Instinct 3 lineup, but I definitely want to hear your thoughts on what you think about these. Is an AMOLED display and an Instinct what you've been looking for? Definitely let us all know down in the comment section down below, and also be on the lookout for my full in-depth reviews of all of these Instincts that are coming soon. In the meantime, have fun out there, and we will see you in the next video.